when you're cutting them. And we're going to slice the rest of this up. I can already hear my oil starting to sizzle in there with our garlic and our onions. And give it a nice stir. Okay, and then I'm also going to cut my onions lengthwise so that they'll be nice, long, and stringy when we cook them up. I have 2 zucchini. I'm going to cut off the tips of them. And then I'm going to cut them each in half, just the way it'll be easier for me. And then I'm going to cut them each in half, just the way it'll be easier for me when I cut them in half. And then we're just going to have little circles. There we go. All the way through. I find for Greek food, zucchini pairs really well with the peppers and the onions. You could also add in mushroom or yellow squash, also tomatoes if you want. We're going to have a tomato and cucumber and feta salad with our dinner tonight, so I decided to leave some tomatoes out, but you could also saute them up, and that would be really nice as well. Chop these. You can just smell, I love the smell of onions and garlic cooking. It just has such a fragrant smell. The great thing about using like a Dutch oven like this is a cast iron pot with an enamel coating is it really retains the heat nicely. So once it's warmed up, it will retain the heat and continue. So we've got the pot nice and warm, so now I'm just gonna turn it down.
You have a question? Who cleans up the kitchen?
I clean up most of the time. My husband does all the unloading of the dishes, but I have a lot of things that can't go in the dishwasher that have to be hand washed, and he doesn't necessarily know all of those things, so I just like to get it done, and I'm like 10 times faster at it. And what he does is, while I'm cleaning up the kitchen, he does the bedtime routines. He does the bedtime routines and homework, so it's kind of like we trade off. Okay, we've got our onions caramelizing here. They're starting to get a nice golden color to them. This is what we want. And now we're going to use, this is arborio rice. For risotto, you don't use regular rice, you use arborio rice. You use this instead. It's kind of a...
try that again.
Arborio, I can't pronounce, I just know this
There's no G.
No, arboro. It's this rice. I always thought it was called arboro.
There's no G. There's no G.
I know, but that's how I pronounce it. It's this rice. This is what you use for risotto. You don't use regular rice. This is kind of a fatter, flat rice. And when I pour it out in here, you'll see it actually has like more of a pearled thing. But this is the rice that you use for regular rice. Arborio. I think I say it better. I may add letters that don't exist.
You got a question? Are you making risotto?
I am. I'm going to make a saffron risotto with some minced parsley in it. We're sauteing up our onions, getting a nice caramelization on them, along with the garlic. And then we're going to be adding 1.5 cups of my special risotto rice. I won't try how to pronounce it again. So what's a little different about making risotto versus making like rice is you actually saute up your rice, and you're going to cook it in oil first, and then you will slowly add liquid until it's absorbed. So I'm doing 1.5 cups. I'm going to cover it with all of our oil, and we're just going to let it toast up in here for just a minute or two. Beautiful. Excellent. Now over here I have water, and I'm going to be using chicken bouillon, and then I have some saffron. Saffron, if you don't know what it is, it's apparently like one of the world's most expensive spices. It's not that expensive, but they're like a part of the poppy plant. They're the pistils of the poppy plant, but they give it a nice golden color. I always have this on because one of the traditional Swedish things I make at Christmas time for Santa Lucia is saffron buns or lussekats. And so I always have saffron because my oldest son and we absolutely love saffron bread. We absolutely love saffron bread. There we go. We're gonna just let it saute up. I've got these prepped for right now, so let's go over to our salmon while our rice is cooking it. So I have a good old fillet of salmon, and we're gonna cut it up into pieces, and we're gonna season it, and then we're gonna do, we're gonna pan sear it. So we're gonna get it out. I'm gonna pull this guy out. Got him on my cutting board. Into easy fillets. That will be good for sauteing up. And there we go. Perfect. And then you have like your last one right here. It's not as pretty, but this is good for my kids. They like it. I'm gonna wash my hands real quick and wash my knife. That over there. You want to make sure your risotto rice doesn't burn, so I'm just going to give it a good stir. You want it to get a little brown and crispy, but you don't want it to burn. There we go. Okay, let's get these fillets seasoning. I'm going to keep this hand clean, and I'm going to use this hand to touch. That's what I always try to, when I'm seasoning, I always try to use one hand for one. That way you can pour without contaminating. We're going to use a little bit of garlic salt to season the top of them. So we're just gonna just pull off those bones I see. And shake it over just a little bit over the top. And perfect. And then I'm gonna use a little bit of oregano. We're gonna shake this over the top of each salmon fillet. And a little bit of basil. And this is dry. Leach a little bit. Look, that one got a hefty dose. So I'm gonna just sprinkle some off. There we go. And perfect. Okay, we've got these seasoned. I'm gonna wash my hands again. Perfect. Give our risotto base a little stir. And now I'm gonna start adding in risotto. Is you add just enough liquid to cover it, and you simmer it slowly. So I'm gonna mix some of my bouillon into this water, and then we'll add it in. So I'm gonna get a good. And then, there we go. Nice. And then we're going to use our golden saffron. And we're going to sprinkle it in. You don't need too much. It actually has a pretty good flavor amount. So I'm going to just turn it up just a little bit more. And then we're going to stir in our saffron. And I'm going to just turn it up just a little bit more. And then we're going to stir in our saffron and let it heat. And now we're going to give it a little bit of the chicken broth, or I used water with bouillon. And we're just going to add the chicken broth, or I used water with bouillon. And we're just going to add just enough to cover the rice. So I'm going to give it a good stir. And then we're going to let this simmer, and once it's reduced down, we'll add our next level of water, and we'll fill it up over it. And that essentially allows the starches in the rice to come out and thicken up into a kind of like a nice sauce, and then the rice will get tender. There we go. So I'm going to just turn it up so we have a nice simmer going on it. And then we've got our salmon right here, and we got to saute up our vegetables. So let's get our oil going. So for this, I just want enough for my crispy salmon to kind of cover the bottom. We're not like deep frying it, but enough for it not to stick. Oh, here's a little, here we go if I can get it. There's a saffron tendril. And then we're just gonna put some in here to saute up our vegetables as well. Okay, side down, meaning the side that you want up and pretty at the very end is what you're cooking first, because the first one is gonna turn out the nicest, the second one. So this salmon has a skin on it, so we're gonna put our tops down, and then we'll flip them, and that will give it the nice pretty crust on it. Okay, we're gonna let our oil heat up, because you always wanna use nice hot oil when you're sauteing our fish off. Okay, let's start with our onions in here, and we're gonna let them cook up. Then we'll add our peppers. So when we're sauteing vegetables, you kind of want to go the hardest vegetables to the softest. So zucchini is the soft. When we're sauteing vegetables, you kind of want to go the hardest vegetables to the softest. So zucchini is the softest, so it will be the last one I add in. Zucchini also has a lot of water, so it's going to sweat out a bit. And then I'm gonna also add a little bit of garlic. That is about a teaspoon and a half. Because as the rice is letting out its natural starch, it can stick to the bottom of your pot. So using a non-stick is great. So I'm using my enameled cast iron. But you also want to stir frequently so you don't burn any of your risotto on the bottom. Oh, I'm sorry, Bruni. You always by my feet. Okay, I got my tongs here, and I'm just gonna stir them, these onions and the garlic, and we're gonna let them start to saute up. There we go. Is it cooking on high? Let's get, there we go. Sometimes this burner, these two ones I have, they're double burners, so they can be small and they can be big. And sometimes I twist them the wrong way, and then I realize I have the small burner on instead of the big one. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna do my water droplet test and see how hot the oil is. If the oil doesn't sizzle, it's not ready to fry in. So no sizzle. So we're gonna let it sit for a little bit longer because we want it nice and hot and ready to pan fry, but we'll turn it down lower. Okay. While these are thawing up, I'm gonna scoot these over so we can start prepping our tomato, cucumber, and feta salad. There we go, give it a little stir. Stir. And we've got baby cucumbers. I find, whoop, did I catch it? Yes. I find baby cucumbers are so much better than the big old like Bonnie Blue cucumbers or something like that. They just have a tender, more tender of a skin. They're like English cucumbers, which are slightly more tender. Okay, so these I'm just going to cut off the tips, and then we will just do a quick slice down. We're gonna add them to our bowl. And it looks like where we dropped in the water, this looks like it's We'll do 3, and I'm gonna wash my hands. And we're gonna let those cook. Fish cooks fairly quickly, so you don't need to cook it for too long. It will cook through pretty fast. Okay, now you see how all of our liquid in our risotto is gone? Risotto is gone. We are now going to do the exact same thing. We're just gonna add enough to cover it, and then we're gonna let it sit. And just enough to kind of cover it. Let's scoop off some of that bouillon. And we're just gonna let it simmer up and absorb it. Okay, and absorb it. Okay, we've got onions are nice. They're starting to sizzle up. We've got a nice hot skillet. This is a scan pan, which is a really thin cast iron pan. Essentially, I really like it. You don't have to season it like and it doesn't weigh nearly as much. It's pretty easy to manage, but I really like it. Which I love my hex clad set as well. Those are great non-stick pans. I've yet to scratch my hex clad, so well, I love those. Okay, break up. We're gonna sizzle these. And then we'll be adding spices to this towards the end, but I always like to wait to add my spices at the end because they can stick to your pan and then they can burn. So I want to try to avoid that as much as possible. But we will be adding some oregano and basil with that as well. Okay. You get a tongs. We're going to check how our fish is crisping up. They're getting there. They still need about a minute or two. They're kind of pale, but they don't have the nice crispy on it that I want. Okay, let's finish chopping up our baby cucumbers. We'll add these to our bowl. And in a minute, we'll add our zucchini to our sauteed peppers and onions. But our peppers and onions are, they're a firmer vegetable, so they need a bit more time to saute. And you really want your onions to caramelize first before adding in the peppers to bring out their natural sugars, which just add another layer of flavor to your food. So here's our baby cukes. Perfect. And then I have a bunch of little red grape tomatoes. We'll give this a stir. Beautiful. And perfect. We're kind of getting that skillet look to it. You know, when you get like fajitas and you get that nice crispy edge on it, that's what we want. Okay, let's see how these guys are doing. Oh, beautiful. You got this nice crispy top to it. And perfect. And now, so that's why we do presentation side down, because we'll have that nice pretty look on it. Okay, now that these have gotten a nice crisp to them, let's add in our zucchini. And again, this is just 2 kind of medium-sized zucchinis. And then we're going to give it a nice stir so it can get some of that nice caramelized onion and oil on them. And I'll give my risotto a nice stir. Perfect. We're going to turn it up just a little bit. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to get a tray to place these on when they're done so we can saute up the next one. Maybe a minute more. Okay. If your salmon does not have skin on the bottom, they will cook up faster. The skin acts as kind of a little like an insulation or a thermal layer. So you might need a minute longer to cook with the skin. Let's cut these guys. So here's our grape tomatoes. We're just gonna chop these in half. If your knife slips while you cut tomatoes, it means your knife is dull, and so you just need to sharpen it. That's always when I know if my knife needs sharpening, is if I'm trying to cut like a tomato or a pepper or an onion, and it starts to drag on it, just sharpen it up with a honing steel. That comes in most knife sets, and it's really simple. Okay, these guys are done. Beautiful. So there's our salmon. We're gonna add our next batch. Okay. It's easier just to put them down with my hands than to try to use a tong. So I'll just wash my hands up. There we go. Give this a nice stir. Oh, look at this. We're getting this beautiful crisping on our zucchini. That's going to have a lot of flavor. Perfect. I'm going to start turning mine down. Okay, looks like we're ready for some more liquid in our risotto. Give it a stir. And we're going to let it simmer. Beautiful. Give these a quick toss. Perfect. Now, let's finish up chopping up these tomatoes. Perfect. And so we've got our tomatoes and our cucumbers right there. We're going to drizzle them with a little bit of olive oil and some balsamic vinegar in just a second. Okay, I'm going to turn mine down, and then I'm going to spread these out, and we're going to add a little bit of garlic salt, a little bit of oregano and basil.
You got a question? What are you cooking tonight?
We are cooking pan-seared salmon with a saffron risotto, and then we're doing some Greek-style vegetables, zucchinis, peppers, and onions. And add a little bit of basil here over the top. And then the star oregano adds the best flavors. And then we're gonna add a nice sprinkling of oregano. And I'm gonna give it a quick stir. Perfect. Beautiful. Let's check on this salmon, see how it is cooking. Perfect. Look at that beautiful, nice crispy sear on it. Beautiful. Okay, let me get a spoon to toss our salad and some balsamic vinegar. So, give it a nice shake. I'm going to give it a little drizzle of some olive oil. Not much. You don't need too much, just a little. And then a little drizzle of balsamic vinegar. And then just a splash of garlic salt. We're going to give it a little stir. See, I think these, about one more minute. Perfect. Now I'm going to give my risotto a little stir. And we're going to add a little bit of feta to our cucumber salad. I'm just going to break up some of these big pieces. before we sprinkle it over. So here's our yummy little Greek salad that we're going to have on the side. Okay. These guys are good. A little runaway. Okay. So we have our lovely salmon. Put it right over here. Okay, now I'm going to mince up some parsley that we're going to throw into our risotto. We'll give a nice little punch of color that will contrast nicely with the golden color of the saffron, and a little brighten it up just a little bit. One more time, and then we're going to mix it in, and then we're going to add just a little bit more broth for the next part of our thing, because we've almost used up all the liquid. We're going to let that simmer some more. Beautiful. I just love risotto. I think it's so good. It was something that was really popular, I think, in the early 2000s, when, like, was it Hell's Kitchen first came out, and, you know, there was Gordon Ramsay's sweet pea risotto or his mushroom risotto with everything. But I do love a good risotto. Cut that off. Okay, we are also going to make a basil cream sauce to go with our salmon. So let me get a little bowl. And this can be just for a little drizzle on top, give you that little extra punch of flavor. So you just need about a scoop or so. It's about a tablespoon of pesto. You don't need a lot. We're going to add a little bit of cream, because pesto is a pretty salty thing. We're going to give it just a little mix. And this you can just drizzle over the top of our salmon. And we're ready. Okay, so we've got this. I'm going to pour a little bit of olive oil on our hummus. That's always what makes, like, restaurant hummus just a little bit better. You give your little drizzle on the top, and then we'll sprinkle a little bit of salt over it. Perfect. We got our hummus, and we're just waiting for this risotto to finish up. We'll just turn it up. I'm going to let it kind of cook out all of the liquid. But while we wait, let me get this set up over here. We're going to have it with naan. So I like naan over pita bread. I think it's more tender, so we're going to be using some garlic naan. So I'm going to cut that up into some bite-sized pieces and get 2 big ones out for our family. And let me flip over our cutting board. We're going to pop in our naan, cut off some of our things. So I'm just going to cut it up into some easy pieces so they can dip into hummus. Again, I think naan tastes so much better than pita. Pita is much drier. They use yogurt in naan, and that keeps it really moist. And I think it tastes a lot better. We've got this. Okay, let's give our risotto a taste, see how it is cooking up. Let me get a spoon. See if we've got our rice to a nice tender. Almost there. Give it a little bit more broth. And then it should cook up nicely. So typically you use about, so I used 1.5 cups of the risotto rice, the arborio rice. And then you do like kind of double that of water. But I've always found it takes just a pinch more water. So when it says 3, I find it works better with about 4 cups of broth or liquid. I'm gonna put this in, and we're gonna get ready to plate this guy up in just a second. We have our yummy, give them a quick stir. Here's our sauteed Greek vegetables with our yummy tomato, cucumber salad, and perfect. We're almost there with that. Here's our crispy salmon. For those of you who joined us late, we seasoned this with oregano, basil, and garlic salt, and then we pan fried them, started face down with olive oil for about, I want to say 4 to 5 minutes until they got this nice golden crispy crust. Then we flipped it over and we cooked it for a little bit longer on the other side. Okay, this risotto is just taking a hot minute longer than I expected. You know what? While we are waiting for that, let me get out some Aunt Aggie's cookies. So if you were with us on the Super Bowl, we made some Aunt Aggie's cookies, which are a recipe from the 1800s. You can see what color they were for the Eagles. And it is made with just basic ingredients: flour, sugar, egg yolks, butter, and cream of tartar. Really simple. Let's stir this. So we'll chop some of those up, and that way my kids will have them for dessert, and we'll bake. Okay, let's see. I think we're almost done with this. About 2-3 minutes left on that, and that will be done. So, with these Aunt Aggie's, all you have to do is you mix all the ingredients for it. I have this on a video already posted on our thing. And you mix the ingredients and then you freeze them. And I make bulk at a time so that when we want to like cookies, I can just take one out and bake them. Which is the beauty of it, because who has time to make homemade cookies all the time? But I do have time to bake cookies easily. So I'm just gonna pop them out. You cut them there. I'm gonna set my oven to 350. And they're just easy cut cookies, but they are a mix between a butter cookie and a sugar cookie. They're not as sweet as a sugar cookie, but they have the texture of a butter cookie. And you just slice and bake. I do them in all sorts of fun colors for the different holidays. Let me give this a nice stir. You can see we've almost absorbed up all the liquid, so we're just about done on that one, which will be nice. And then we can serve up dinner while our cookies bake. But these are just a huge hit. They're like the most simple cookie ever. They're a family favorite. I make them, I want to say, at least once a month. Now I do a big batch at a time because they're really small. They're about that big. And they're just really easy to eat, I will say. But I'm going to make these recipe cards and post these on. I think these are the next recipe card I will make for our thing. But they're just a super easy cookie. And I always just put mine in press and seal because it is easy to pull it off. Okay, so it's just like a log, a frozen log. Pop these out. I do red and green at Christmas. I'll do pink and white or pink and red at Thanksgiving. When I'm really creative for St. Patrick's Day, I'll do the rainbow one. Now that can be tricky You just bake these also for just 7 minutes at 350.
Oh, you got a question? What are the cookies called?
These are called Aunt Aggie's. So I do have a recipe posted through the link of our page. But from Super Bowl is when we made them last, or like the day before the Super Bowl. So you could look there, but I think I'm going to post the recipe card for that either tonight or tomorrow, so that we'll have that. But it's a family recipe from the 1800s. And now when I do it, I always make a double batch because they're just really easy to bake, keep in the freezer. And they last in the freezer for about, I don't know, 3 to 4 months. Like, they don't go bad. They don't ever get freezer burn or anything like that. So you can keep them there for a long time. And then you're like, hey, I want cookies. You can pop them out, and within 10 minutes, you can have like freshly baked cookies. Okay. And my kids' favorite thing is to just eat the dough. We'll get these all cut up, and then we'll plate our dinner because our risotto is almost done. And the risotto took a little bit longer today than I expected it. But you know what? That happens. Sometimes you're like, oh, I can do all of this, and then you misjudge something. I think that's the part about like learning to cook, is it's like okay to misjudge. Or you could be like my daughter and tell me that I have like time blindness and I can never get everything done. So once our oven is at 350, we'll pop those in. But look at these. Risotto is getting perfect. You see how it's starting to come together really nicely. And it's got like a thick kind of sauce in it. That's made from like the starch of the rice and the broth. And this is a saffron risotto with some fresh parsley in it. Okay. Where's my spoon? Perfect. Tender, lovely, great. Well, let's serve up our dinner. Okay. So the way I like to serve, we'll have our saffron risotto. A nice helping of kind of Greek flavored vegetables. Let's grab a nice, if I can get it without it falling. We've got our pan-seared salmon, and I'm going to give it a nice drizzle of creamy basil sauce. We're going to add in our tomato basil salad and a nice scoop of hummus with our things. So this is our dinner tonight. Put it right here. So just an easy, simple Greek dinner. Perfect for like just a refreshing night if you want. We had like our, we had a chicken and black bean soup and a cheese melt, so this is a nice lighter fare for dinner tonight. We're gonna pop our cookies in the oven. We'll post a picture later, and I'm gonna get this recipe card out for you guys so you guys can make them, but they're just super simple, a family favorite. But again, thank you guys for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We try to do live cooking every single night and during the day. But again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for joining us.